Hey guys, former film student back today with another episode of 31 Nights, 31 Frights. We are more than halfway through the month of October, so with that being said, let's get right into this episode with talking about 1968's Night of the Living Dead. So, Night of the Living Dead, as mentioned, was released in 1968, directed by George A. Romero, and this is the film that started the zombie craze. Yes, all of you Call of Duty fans, those of you who are big fans of zombie movies like 28 Days Later or Shaun of the Dead, or anything of that sort, you have this movie to owe a lot of thanks to. This, I don't believe, is the first film to ever feature zombies. I'm sure there was a lot earlier works that featured sort of reanimated characters that came back from the dead and would, feast on flesh and stuff like that. But this is the film that really brought it to the forefront of mainstream media. And not just that, but a lot of my favorite horror classics, films like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and even later films into the early 2000s, films like Saw have a lot to owe to this movie. It showed that you could take a small shoestring budget and make a financially successful and great horror film. But aside from its cultural impact and relevance, what does this movie do so great? Well, I think it does a lot of things great. For starters, it is a really efficient, simplistic film. It is only, I think, a little over an hour and a half long, and on top of that, the story and setting is very simplistic. For a majority of the film, I'd say 98% of this movie, it takes place in one location. And even when we get glimpses of other locations, it's usually on the TV just to give us more information about this sort of zombie attack that's growing larger and larger. But again, most of the film takes place in one house. It has a handful of characters, but that's what it does so great. This film doesn't drag, it doesn't try to draw anything out. It really is just an efficient film. It's a film about a bunch of characters who hold up in a house together to sort of survive this zombie attack, and it just breeds conflict and it breeds drama. And I love films that are able to take one location and still be consistently entertaining throughout the entire film. Films like 12 Angry Men or Saw, films that take place in one location for a majority of the film but are still very entertaining, very fun, and interesting to watch. And that's what this movie does so well. A lot of the entertainment comes from just these characters being together in a single location, having conflicting personalities, and just having drama be bred from that. You have very hot personalities, like the one character in this film, he's sort of this father figure. He has his wife and his daughter who was injured, and he's very angry, he's very aggressive, and he doesn't think very rationally. That conflicts with other characters in the film. You have a character who suffered a very traumatic event at the beginning of the film, so she's sort of catatonic and very, helpless and irrelevant for a lot of the film. And it just, a lot of that stuff works together to really create a fun, entertaining movie. And again, it's really efficient. One of the things that I hate the most, and it's usually in horror films, is taking a premise and trying to stretch it out. In my opinion, not very many horror films deserve to be over an hour and 40 minutes long, and that's what I love about John Carpenter films so much. Films like Halloween and The Thing, is they're very efficient movies. They're edited very well, they're very efficient, like I said, and they don't really waste any time. They just do what they're supposed to do. They get in and they get out, and that's also what happens in this movie. George A. Romero does not really try to drag this out, like I said. He really just makes a very efficient, very fun, very entertaining zombie film. As for its technical elements, obviously it was released in 1968 and it had a very small budget, but I still think the cinematography is really well done. Yes, there are some lighting issues, but I think the black and white filmography really helped that. It also, the black and white really covers up a lot of the special effects and makeup work, because you go and you watch the sequel to this film, Dawn of the Dead, which was released 10 years later, and it almost doesn't hold up as well because that film is shot in color and some of the effects look really dated. Where in this film, you can't really see the poor effects and the ones that look dated because it's in black and white. So the blood work and the special effects and all the makeup and stuff, you can't really tell if it's, holding up or not because the black and white sort of masks it. So I think the decision to shoot in black and white really helped this film stay relevant even to this day and age, and really helped props it up. But again, there's this scene in the third act of this film where you just see this really close-up shot of this zombie eating this person, and it's really unsettling. It's really creepy. It really sort of, churns your stomach, and it's really, really great. And for a film that I don't really find that scary, there's actually a lot of silly scenes. The zombies themselves, they don't really ever feel that threatening. That scene in particular and that shot really got to me, and really added a lot of scare to the film. But again, I really do enjoy this film a lot. It sort of, again, like Psycho, and I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's just black and white movies. Maybe it's just the old aesthetic of this film. But it sort of has a cozy feel to it. It sort of puts you back to, I guess, a simpler time, which I guess is a little bit of a contradictory statement because it's a zombie film. But yeah, there's just something about watching this movie that I find comforting. It's a really, really great movie. If you guys are horror fans, this is one that I'm probably not going to recommend to people who aren't fans of the genre. If you're someone who doesn't really like horror films or you only really like modern ones, you're really not going to find a lot of enjoyment in this movie. Um, yeah, it's just not going to be for you. If you're someone who does enjoy the genre as a whole and you like going back and seeing where a lot of the genre sort of got its roots from and to see where things sort of originated from, this is a film that I think you might enjoy. I think you might be able to go back and find a lot of enjoyment in this film and find things that you'd like. I, for one, really do enjoy this movie. It's one that, again, I recommend to horror fans, ones that really do like going back to the earlier parts of the genre and checking out films from like the 60s and stuff like that. This film does feel a little dated. There are some silly scenes. There are some parts that come across as really cheesy. The acting is not all that great, and the production value, even though I think it looks a lot better than the budget would suggest, it still does have a very simplistic feel and look to it. But with all that being said, it's a movie that I really enjoy. Again, a lot of the films that we've come to grow and love in the horror genre have a lot to owe to this movie. People who love the concept of zombies and who love zombies in media, you have a lot to owe to this movie as well. But yeah, there's not a lot more I want to say about this film. As always, if you guys like this video, make sure to click the like button, subscribe to me. If you want to hear more from me, make sure to click the little bell notification so you do get notified when I post new videos. Let me know down in the comments down below what your favorite zombie movie is. This is the second zombie film I've talked about on this channel in this series, the first being Shaun of the Dead, which you can go back on my channel and check that video out as well if you'd like. But yeah, that is it for today, and as always, I will see you guys on the next episode.